We're both feeling pretty brain dead, I think, today. I'm recovering. You're potentially going into the sickness.
Yeah, so if we sound a little hoarse,
Let me tell you, at the risk of sounding grotesque, I feel like a bag of smashed buttholes.
yeah, it's kind of where I'm at.
I said to Dina before we started recording that I would wish it on my worst enemy because I'm petty like that.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have done something real bad for me to wish how I have felt this week upon you.
Yeah, I feel like though for grim encounters, the hoarse voice might actually work in our
Maybe.
favor.
You know what? I've actually, because I've been basically a cadaver on my couch all week, I've been very, very much looking forward to this. I think it's going to just be a nice ease into, well, we're in October.
Yeah,
It's spooky season.
it is.
And I mean, we were, I think there's some gremlins in your basement fucking around with your computer for sure.
We had all sorts of tech issues. The ghost that I'm pretty sure occupied this house did not want us to talk about ghosts today.
I don't think so, because we obviously had our tech issues last week, which the lovely Cody stepped in
Thank you,
and
Cody.
lended us his IT expertise
Yes.
and got us a little bit further out of the swamp of technical issues. And then today, we were having some hella issues, even getting into some recording.
We spent almost an hour trying to set up for this episode. But with that, let's start the episode.
You betcha. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Dina. Welcome to the Grim Curriculum.
So like I said, with Halloween just around the corner, we thought it would be a good time to sit down for some more grim encounters.
This is now the 8th time that we have done this. And if you enjoy hearing spooky stories from our listeners, be sure to check out our other Grim Encounters episodes that we've done in the past.
These are some of my favorites. We have told listener stories. We have told awesome fictional horror stories, which I have also very much enjoyed. It's just a good time to just sit down and listen.
I know a lot of people enjoy listening to podcasts as they're falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are perfect for that because it's kind of like you're just getting lulled into that peaceful doom so that you can have a restful sleep. Because for me, I fall asleep to horror movies.
That's true.
So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, you've compared it often to just sitting around a campfire with a bunch of friends telling scary stories. I love that.
Love. It's the season. So we're into our first story, and from one of our longtime listeners, Jake. And he says do you want to read or shall I read?
You can start with this one.
Okay,
go for it.
Let's get into it. All right.
Thank you, Jake, for this story, by the way. And thank you, Jake, for always being so active on our social media.
Yes.
We really appreciate it.
I see your name pop up in my notifications often.
We love it.
We appreciate it. So Jake says, hello and good day.
Hello.
My name is Jake. In my head, it sounds like Channing Tatum's My Name's Jeff. My name's Jake.
My name's Jake.
My story starts my senior year of high school, 2003. I grew up in what was once a small town near the Cascade foothills in the northwest corner of Washington state. The town has since quadrupled in size, sadly, but that's beside the point. Back then, I wasn't interested in the spooky ghost world, but this experience probably sparked my interest. I was admittedly into the aliens and the X-Files. Anywho, near the end of my senior year, all these rumors started going around the school about an abandoned mining town with a haunted cemetery. This comes as no surprise, as there are tons of tiny mining towns sprawled across the Cascades that have either a little population or are completely abandoned. Me and my bandmates joked about driving to this town cemetery after graduation to celebrate. I like that. It's feeling very like coming of age story.
I love it. Yeah.
I do.
I love an abandoned town.
Mm-hmm. Graduation came and went, and in the fall of 2003, after a jam practice, the topic of the cemetery came back up. I called a couple of my classmates that didn't get off to college right away, and 3 of them, as well as my drummer at the time, decided, let's do it. We did some research on the then popular MapQuest or equivalent to locate and map our way there. Now this is the important part. As we didn't have any flashlights, we went to the classiest place on earth, Walmart, to load up on some snacks for the long drive and some brand new flashlights and batteries. Each one of us got a brand new flashlight. One of us, and I can't remember who, spent the big bucks and even got one of the expensive police style ones that could see for miles. The rest of us just got cheaper ones. Oh, so he splurged for like the mag light.
He's ready to go.
Honestly, good idea because my dad has a mag light and he's had one my whole life.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying that not only is it in England we call them torches, we don't call them
Yep.
flashlights. So he's like, not only is it a great torch, but if you really needed to like get someone away from you, you could give them a good bash with it too. We then drove about 60 minutes into the foothills and parked at a blocked barred Forest Service cutoff road and began hiking to the old cemetery. It was around 3 miles and took us a good hour or so as we were talking and joking, probably like, 5, 18, or 19-year-olds do. And it was probably close to 10 p.m. at night. About 3/4 of the way there, through the trek to the cemetery, we saw a couple of abandoned homes, but by no means was this a town. It was more like a cul-de-sac or two really old abandoned houses. Granted, we didn't snoop around or explore the houses as we wanted to get to the haunted cemetery. Looking back and majoring in history, I do find it odd that I don't remember seeing any old remnants of churches or stores. But once again, we didn't look closely at the buildings at all, so perhaps that could be all explained. Finally, we find ourselves at the creepy part. As we get past the houses, we come across the cemetery. It looks like an overgrown, worn out cemetery. I did notice that a lot of the tombstones range from the 1880s to the 1910s, and I really wanted to do some grave rubbings so that I could try to look up some of the names online. I wish that my flip phone would have had today's camera technology, as that would have made it all so much easier. As we entered the heart of the cemetery, all of our flashlights died.
Ooh.
I love cemeteries.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places on earth. I talk about it a lot, Whitby, on the north coast of England. And one of my favorite places within my favorite place is the cemetery at St. Mary's Church. It's massive and sprawling, and I
Yeah.
find it very peaceful.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, if I were walking around late at night and my torch went out,
Mm-mm.
I'd be high stepping it down the
Yep.
99 steps to a pub, let me tell you. They didn't just flicker, they freaking died. I felt, and later confirmed with the others, that they had felt the same, like I had a serious case of vertigo and had been spun around 30 times and was so dizzy I could barely stand. I couldn't figure out which way we came in, and the other four started yelling and panicking, screaming, "What's going on?" It's worth noting that this is not a big cemetery by any means, maybe the size of a soccer pitch. Granted, the grass was tall and clearly unkempt, but it wasn't overgrown either. I'm 6'4" and could clearly see all around me and all the other guys, and it was a clear and surprisingly bright out night with even our flashlights dead. But none of us could figure out how to get out. Granted, we were panicked and confused. After what was probably seconds but felt like minutes, I got out of the cemetery as well as everyone else, and we just booked it back to the car. We were all very athletic and probably set a world record with how fast we made it back. Yeah, I bet,
Yeah.
to be honest. When we made it back and after the panic stopped, we tested the flashlights and they worked just fine.
Mm.
I described the feeling of vertigo and like I was spun around and confused, and they all said that they felt the same. My old drummer said that he checked his phone and that was dead as well. And I noted that I had to turn mine on when we got back to the car, which would indicate that it had died as well. For a couple of years, we joked about this, but never went back, and our lives have all taken us in very different directions. I looked up the cemetery, and while it's still there, a new development has been built all around it, and all I can think of is the movie
I
Poltergeist.
love that.
That is exactly where your mind would go. I am grateful for this crazy event as it got me into all things fun and spooky. Sorry if there are any grammatical errors. Work has been insane, and I am writing this in between some work documents. Thank you for the amazing show, and I appreciate you both. Thank you for sending that story
We
in.
appreciate
I
you.
love I love like a creepy road story or a
Mhm.
creepy, like, in the boonies, when
Yes.
it's like there's not a light around, all the homes are abandoned, and like I said, I love a cemetery.
I do too. I've always wanted to do the cemetery tours here in Edmonton because we
Mhm.
have a few old ones.
And big ones too,
Huge.
which is kind of crazy. We're not a super big city in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what our population is. I think it's just over 1,000,000 maybe, but we have some big ass
Yeah.
cemeteries.
All right. Our next set of stories come from TikTok user Phoenix Hope. In one of my previous jobs, I was out by Sundre, Alberta, and I was walking through the woods at night. I was headed to the barn and just heard an inhuman scream. At this time, I was doing night checks at the camp to make sure no campers snuck out of bed. The scream I heard was something I thought was right behind me, but when I turned, there was nothing there. I continued walking and heard something behind the outhouse next to me. Again, no one. At this point, I'm getting spooked. I only have about 500 meters to the barn, so I ran. I heard something behind me, but I didn't look back. I latched the barn door behind me and heard something outside for about an hour. Mind you, it's pitch black outside. When I heard it leave, I grabbed a pole as a weapon and walked back to the cabin I was staying in. Later that summer, I was doing night watch for the week. I wasn't told until after that we had 5 grizzly bears on the property, but that had never explained the screaming at midnight that I heard.
I was gonna say I've been to Sundre, Alberta. It's like beautiful mountains and all
Mhm.
that stuff. I was like, it's probably not a ghost. It's probably wildlife
Like
stalking
a
your ass,
bobcat or something.
something. So as much as like in that moment you might think like, oh yeah, my hair's standing on end. I'm just being a weenie. No, no. Chances are there's something looking at you, and you probably should get inside.
That's that, like, prey mentality where your body
Yes.
is like, "Run."
Yes, that sixth sense
Yep.
where you can't explain it, but you just know something was stalking you that
That's
night.
why I always say to trust your gut because your body is doing that for a reason, and at that point, you hope it's a ghost.
I would rather it be a ghost than a,
Yeah.
like, 800-pound grizzly bear, and not only that, is you mentioned you're at camp. Are campers in tents? I hope not.
Oh.
You're a lucky lady.
See, and stories like that show that sometimes it's the real things that are the scariest.
Mhm, 100%.
Phoenix Hope goes on to say, also, if it's not too many stories, I was working for a landscaping company here in Calgary and doing our nightly garbage pickups at one of our clients' properties. I was just about to get out of the truck to start when a man walked around the corner with his face covered in blood and he was angry.
Oh, jeez.
I was cautious because this wasn't an amazing part of town, right off the LRT station. If you know, you know.
Yep.
And he walked to the hood of my truck and stared me down.
Mm-mm.
He then walked to the side of my truck to the passenger door that was locked from the driver's side. I called 911 because I did not get paid enough for that.
Correct.
I watched him leave after trying to open my door and he was gone. Not around a building, just gone. I was trying to find him to provide 911 with info, but it was like he vanished. Needless to say, this was also around midnight to 1 a.m., and I called my boss and woke him up and said, I don't care if we lose the contract. I am not doing that at night.
I don't blame
I
you.
appreciate that.
As if you guys remember, I can't. Maybe it was our last Grim Encounters, the one before. My bestie Paige also
Yes.
got accosted by a man with blood running down his face, who actually managed to climb into her vehicle. Turned out he was on the run from the
Yeah.
RCMP. The way Paige just sort of escaped that unscathed,
Miraculous.
girl. I often say about her, she gets into situations I would not get in with a gun. Like, it's crazy. And so I do not blame you for being like, I don't get paid enough for this shit.
They go on to say, I listened to you on Spotify, but found you on my For You page on TikTok. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Phoenix
That
Hope.
makes me
I
happy.
love that. The following stories are from our dear friend, Cosplay Bug Yeg.
Yay.
Welcome, welcome. When I finished high school, I used to work at one of those towns for history where you can go visit. Things like Fort Edmonton Park. But this one was called Fort Steele, and it was out in British Columbia. I was working there during Halloween season, And when I went there for my first day to do the auditions, they kept the people that they wanted to keep, and then they gave us a little tour of the fort. And instead of telling us the history of each house and who used to live there and all those kinds of things, they would tell us the ghost stories that had been told in the fort so that we might give seasonal appropriate stories to any visitors that might be coming through. The three I remember off the top of my head: there is a hotel that if you're there when you come through the main doors, there's a long street, and you walk to the end of the street, and on the left hand side, there it is, the giant yellow hotel. And there used to be a woman that lived there, that her husband died while he was on a trip, and he was supposed to meet her back at the hotel. He never showed up. Unfortunately, she committed suicide because of this. Once that had happened, people started seeing the reflection of her in the windows of the upper rooms where her room was while she waited for her dead husband. The ghost story that is told is that she waits for her husband and she's looking out the window waiting for him to come home. That's the only ghost that I have seen while there. It was really weird. I didn't like it.
That's fair. I did not like it. I wouldn't
that's
like it either.
that's fair. When you go into the hotel, you can't actually go up the stairs, but there's kind of like a little pathway that goes in, and then there's a grate and a wall so you can look through and see everything, but you can't touch anything. And it lines up with the stairs looking upwards. And I saw something go across up there, and there's not supposed to be any actors or anything like that in that space. So it was very weird. I would be pretty upset if I knew there wasn't supposed to be anyone up there and I heard someone like stomp across the
Oh, yeah, no, I'd
landing.
be out.
Even if it was a real person, I'd be like, no, I'm not investigating
Yeah,
that.
I'd be like, "You shouldn't be up there anyway, not
No,
my business."
you are with the ghosts now, my
Yep,
friend.
exactly. Okay, so story number 2 involves the butcher.
Oh, I don't like that.
So this house used to be unmarked. When I worked there, there was no signage on it or anything. It was just a gray, old, falling apart house that you couldn't go into. I went there 2 years ago and they have since repaired the house. The story we were told about this house was that the butcher had caught his wife cheating, and I love how this is said, he went full murder on them.
Oh, good.
I can't remember if he had killed both his wife and the man she was cheating on him with, or if it was just the wife. But I do remember that what the ghost story is that if you're wandering around the fort at night, you can sometimes hear screams from that side of the fort.
Would you be more inclined to be happier to see a ghost or hear the screams?
Oh my God, that's a really good
Because
question.
at least if you see a ghost, you can be like, oh, she's wearing period appropriate
She's right there.
attire. She's right there. She's not screaming at me. But if you hear a scream, I think your imagination just goes wild.
Here's my issue.
Mm,
If I'm seeing a ghost, chances are it's pretty close to me. If I'm hearing it, it might be far away and I can get away easier.
that's true. And I like the idea of it being far away.
Yes, if it was like just a scream right behind
Oh,
me,
no.
I would probably just die.
Quite frankly, I think I'd just have a massive coronary and then
Yes.
my soul would leave my body and then I would yell at the ghost
Yeah.
in my unearthly
Why'd
form.
you do that?
Be like, you bitch,
Yeah.
screaming in my ear,
Yeah.
scaring the shit out of me. This last ghost story involves the most active paranormal house on the lot. It belonged to the priest, actually. So they had this house for a while, and one of the things that Fort Steele does is that what they will often exchange houses with Heritage Park in Calgary. My understanding is that this house has been out there and then it was sent back. I don't know if it's because of this or not, but I like to think it was. So people, the owners included, and the managers have all reported that the displays in the house, and this is another one of those houses where you can't just go home and go through and touch everything. It's one of these walk ins that's graded off so you can have a quick look, but you can't reach out and touch anything. All of the objects have been seen to move. One of the things that would happen is that they would set it up the way they liked it to look, and then they would lock up the house and come back the next day, and everything would have been put back exactly how it was. They actually gave up on decorating this place because someone or something kept rearranging it. It was all funny because none of the other houses get locked at night. You just locked the fort and you called it good. But this house is the house they started locking because they thought, a staff member or maybe kids or something were coming in and rearranging it. So they started locking it and it would still happen. It's one of the reasons that this particular house has the graded viewing space because they decided to try and see that if it was maybe people, like guests moving this stuff. So they added this to add a layer of protection to it, and it still happens anytime they move anything. So this one is one of my favorites. Apparently, the family that lived there, the priest and the wife, were very particular about how their house looks in the afterlife. So I think this one's kind of cute.
I like that. I'm okay with that.
I feel like I would be that way too.
Yeah.
If I'm a ghost in the afterlife and I've either chosen to stay in my home
Yeah.
or I'm bound to my home,
Don't touch my shit.
don't touch my shit. I'm gonna put it back.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of like that.
I like that a lot. That's a friendly ghost.
Exactly. I like the ones I always say, it's like, look, we can coexist.
Yeah.
You can be in the house. I understand maybe this was your house or your land at one
Yep.
point. Absolutely. We can coexist. But the second you start scaring me, scaring my animals, then we're going to have a problem. If you want to be all whoopy doopy and open all the cupboards in the kitchen and whatever, leave messages on the steam mirror, go for it.
As long as they're friendly messages.
Friendly messages. Or like be like, hey girl, remember to take your laptop to work with
Ooh,
you.
that'd be nice.
You know what I mean?
Or like nice butt.
Yeah, totally. As long as it's not too far.
Yeah.
Consent.
Yes.
But to me, it's like, no, it just needs to be that way.
Yeah.
And they don't seem particularly angry about having to move it.
Yeah, they're just doing it when no one's there. They're just like, the people were here again. We got to put it all back together.
Yeah. So I like that. Thanks, Cosplay Bug Yeg.
Thank you. Okay, so for our last story, this is my story.
I'm so excited for this one.
I've wanted to share this for a long time.
I'm so glad you are.
All right, so due to confidentiality issues, I can't say exactly where this took place.
Right.
But I will try to give as much detail as I am allowed. So from around 2011 to 2015, I worked at a place where various adults were living there under supervision. The layout was a 3-story apartment building with 6 1 to 2 bedroom apartments in it. The office where I worked was on the bottom floor, and it had a desk, bathroom, and a small kitchen in it.
So just little apartments.
Yeah, it's just a regular apartment building, essentially. There was a camera there, and anyone entering the building had to be buzzed in. There was also a small laundry room nearby. My job included weekly check-ins, performing hourly rounds to ensure everyone was present, and I worked alone.
That scares me.
My overnights were usually scheduled from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., and I still worked alone during those.
And I'm assuming you were awake for them the whole time.
Oh, yes.
Like a full-on night
You
shift,
can't
right?
sleep.
Like it's not like you were going and staying an overnight just in case something happened.
No.
You were aware and awake.
On high alert.
Yeah.
For safety reasons, we would get a call every other hour from someone working at another location to ensure we were doing all right and nothing bad had happened. Every once in a while, due to the work that we did, we would have some sort of incident which involved the police being called. During the first few hours of the overnight, I'd do rounds and people would normally be winding down, watching TV, or visiting each other. Eventually, everyone would go to sleep, and I would have to quietly walk into their rooms to make sure they were still there, but also that they, and I quote, because this is how we had to write it in the books, appeared to be breathing.
Oh, God.
Between rounds, I'd work on reports and get whatever I needed done. I'd also read the odd book, but I spent some of my downtime watching TV in the room. Which there was a point where I watched a lot of scary movies when I worked there, and very quickly I was like, you're an idiot, don't do this.
Especially on a night shift. A night shift literally anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
I would not watch horror movies on.
Exactly. When I first started, I heard from many staff members, including my boss, that this location had a reputation for being haunted. I laughed it off. Sure, we worked with some dangerous people, but it was to be expected. We always had to be on high alert. The last thing we needed was to have potential paranormal activity in the back of my mind. So for the first few months, everything was fine. The nights were kind of lonely, but I was always occupied and they'd go by fast enough. Eventually, I noticed that every now and again, when I'd go up and down a certain set of stairs, I'd feel uneasy. It's hard to describe, but it basically felt like I had this urge to get through the stairs as quickly as possible. It felt like there was something there I couldn't explain. I don't know if you've ever had this, especially as a kid. You're going from the basement to upstairs
Always.
and you have that feeling to
you
run.
gotta run.
Yeah.
I still, to this day. And we're lucky in our house, our basement light is at the top of the
Yeah.
stairs. So it's not like you have to turn the light off and run up in the
Yeah,
dark,
yeah.
which I'm supremely thankful
Yeah, but
for.
you know what I mean,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
100%.
One night, it was around 3 AM, and I was sitting in the office, and everything was quiet. I had spent most of the evening watching it snow outside and dreading my drive home. I
Mm.
could see my car from the window, and it already had almost a foot of snow on it.
Ugh, yuck.
As I was looking at my car and hoping it would still start in the morning, I heard 3 large bangs from the ceiling directly above me. It sounded like someone was standing in place in the apartment above me and banging a boot on the ground. I thought it would be a good time to do a round,
Mm.
so I grabbed my flashlight and my clipboard and went to check the apartment above me. At the time, it was occupied by an older man. I had read his reports and saw that in the past he made some bad choices, which involved multiple people being hurt. He had a history of drug and alcohol abuse, but at this point in his life, he was doing pretty well. For the most part, I got along well with just about everybody there. On one occasion, someone who was new was screaming at me, and 3 other people left their apartments to make sure I was okay.
Okay.
They told him to treat the lady with respect, and it never happened again.
I really like that they protected you in
They
that
looked
moment.
out.
Yeah.
When I first started there, I didn't have a car, and many of them would lecture me about taking public transportation because it was located in a rough area.
Which is hilarious coming from some of the people that you were working with.
Yes. And basically, in a weird way, I felt that a lot of them have my back.
I would rather, even if it's slightly false, like always have your wits about
Of
you,
course.
obviously. Never slip up in that way.
Mhm.
But it's nice to know that if the shit truly hit the fan with someone, that you weren't completely alone
Yes.
in that way.
Yes. Anyways, back to that night. I went into the room and expected to see him awaken in his kitchen, which was located right above where I sat in the office. The lights were off, and I used my flashlight to look around. He was in his bed snoring loudly. In fact, his position hadn't changed since I checked on him an hour before.
Oh.
I quietly walked around the apartment and looked to see if something maybe had fallen, but nothing was out of place. Told myself it was late and I was tired, and I probably imagined it. I did the rest of my rounds and went back to the office. When I got back to that set of stairs, I felt a little uneasy and began to rush down them. I went downstairs, and as soon after, my phone rang for a safety check. I told my colleague what had happened. She was a casual worker who took extra shifts. She told me that she began refusing overnights at this particular building after a few weird things happened to her.
Whoa.
A few weeks later, I was returning to my office to do a round when I heard a hey coming from the laundry room, which was closed.
Oh no.
It sounded like a woman, which surprised me because other than me and some other female staff, there were only men allowed in this building.
Oh.
In a normal situation, I would want to lock myself in the office and not come out until I needed to.
Yeah.
But because of my job, I had to search the laundry room in case there was someone who shouldn't be in the building
Absolutely.
or a hidden cell phone. I didn't find anything, but I remember that the office was freakishly cold when I returned, despite the
Oh.
fact that I had a space heater on for most of the night.
Mm.
A few months after all this, I was transferred to a different location which didn't have any weird stories around it. Now, besides the paranormal stuff, I
Mhm.
also had some scary but explainable experiences. On one occasion, I walked into a room to see the 20-year-old woman who was assigned to it giggling as she lay out all of her kitchen knives on her coffee table.
No, thank
She had a
you.
history of aggression and lashed out in the past. I was lucky though. I had a coworker who found a person hiding in the laundry room one night. Someone had gone out for a smoke and propped the door open so they wouldn't have to be buzzed back in. This was against the rules, but it did sometimes happen. Apparently, the door didn't close properly, and a few minutes later, a woman off the street walked in and hid in the laundry room to escape the cold. She wasn't any
Oh.
danger, but needless to say, it scared the crap out of her.
Yeah, obviously.
A coworker of mine was also taken hostage by someone
Oh,
there.
no.
She had taken away some privileges because they had broken rules. The man had taken drugs while he was out for the day, and he didn't want her to report it, so he locked himself in the office with her. Luckily, she was fine. Something similar happened another time a few weeks later to somebody else.
Yikes.
Soon after, I went to look for another job.
Yeah.
For a few years, I stayed in touch with many of my former coworkers, and we'd always talk about how everyone who worked in that apartment building would have at least one weird experience to share, whether it was stomping, hearing someone running up and down the stairs in the middle of the night, temperature changes, or sometimes even seeing orbs in the camera.
I mean, my thoughts immediately go to, phasmophobia. I was like, "You got low
Yep.
temperatures, you got orbs, you're hearing
Mhm.
things." That's creepy, and the line of work that you were doing at the
Yep.
time does not help with the creepiness,
No.
because there's that added level of potential danger from
Yes,
a
very much
real
so.
person.
Yeah, the
Eee.
people that we worked with were very high risk. A lot of them had a do not confront order
Mhm.
where, like, you knew that you couldn't say something negative to them because you would be in danger. I was also, again, single staffed.
That's crazy to me. Especially, and I maybe you would have an argument against this, but as a single woman in an apartment building full of potentially dangerous
Yeah.
men, you're a very brave individual, because 'cause I'm not sure that I would have the cojones to do that job.
That was me at a very different point in my life. I was in my early 20s, fresh out of university, ready to rock, ready to do things,
Yeah.
and I did this job for quite a few years, and eventually I was like, "This isn't sustainable. I can't do this forever. It is very stressful. It is very scary. You never know what kinda night you're gonna have."
Well, I have had the experiences of talking to you about your experience with, prisons and remand and all
Mhm.
that stuff, and then I have a very good friend who has also worked in the prison system, and let me tell you, y all you people out there that are like, "I'd do okay in prison."
You wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
Nope.
No, you would not. Absolutely not. Some of the stories I've heard from you
Mhm.
and from my very, very good friend, no. And even scarier, actually, some of the stories, because my friend worked on the female prison side of things
Mhm.
for quite some time, as well as male. He often said the ladies were scarier than the men.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, because I worked with both men and women in this particular
Mhm.
field, and when you were working single staffed with men, you could have X number of people in the building that would accommodate for that one staff member. With women, it was actually half that were allowed because the women
Oh,
were considered to be a little bit more higher risk, and it would take a lot more people to manage the same amount of women as it would men.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder, I'd be really interested to, like, dig into, like, the nitty-gritty, like, psychology of why that
Yeah.
is, because I think it's very opposite to the way most people would
Yeah.
think. You'd think that, like, the men would be the one that they need double the observation and all this, and that the women wouldn't, but the stories I've heard about the women in
Mhm.
prison, crazy.
Yep. Well, that's my stories.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
I was,
welcome.
like, on the edge of my seat. I was like, "What is happening?"
It was a wild time. It was definitely I always say I am very glad that I did that for a living because I learned a lot. I developed a lot as a person. But if I got a call tomorrow saying, "Hey, do you wanna go back into this? We'll pay you double the money," I'd still say no.
And that's crazy that it's like at like 21, 22, whatever, it's
Mhm.
like you're gung ho and it's like, "Oh, baby, your little frontal lobe not even
Oh,
developed."
no.
And
Which is
as
interesting because I quit around the time that my frontal lobe would have developed.
exactly. So what does that tell you?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to you and thank you to everybody
Thank you,
who
thank
shared their
you.
stories. I very much enjoyed them. I was looking forward to them and you guys did not
Grim
disappoint.
Encounters always delivers. I love
Always.
it.
Love, love, love.
If you have a story that you want us to mention on the next Grim Encounters, because we do these a few times a year, thegrimcurriculum@gmail.com. Send them over. We would love to
Mhm.
hear your stories, and we always appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, thank you.
And speaking of appreciation, we want to thank everyone on Patreon. So we do have a free tier where you can get early episode reveals. We also have paid tiers that have video versions of the episode, Discord, and all sorts of fun bonus features. I've also noticed the last little while our episodes come out early on Patreon as well, so you can get early access
I
too.
do try my best. Usually, if I can, I try to get them on the Friday evening. But at the very least, they will be available on Saturday mornings, usually before our YouTube premiere at 12 p.m. So if you want to kind of have a quick listen ahead of time
Yeah.
and maybe then hop over into the premiere and discuss.
Yes, and that's 12 p.m. MST.
Hmm.
Thank you so much to all of our Grim VIPs. Take it away, Charlotte.
The wonderful, the wholesome, and the beautiful Mayhem Mudkip, Lisa, Nova, Kevinus Musicus, Brian, Bob, Paranoid Pop Rocks, Steven Centauri, Judy, Yegpla, and Atlantean Jedi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Y'all are the Titty City.
And thank you all so much for listening. This has been
The Grim Curriculum. According to the Malleus Maleficarum, the 15th century guide for witch hunters, witches could steal men's penises and keep them as pets.
Oh,
I don't know that I'd want to do that even if I could.
no.
No offense.
Bye.